Next, let's rig the car steering. Steering is something we can do very simply. If we want to add details, we can also make it very complex. Let's start with the simple version here. The first problem we need to solve is the wheel's rotation pivot. We already discovered this when we were looking at references. When the wheel is steering, it doesn't rotate around its own center point. Instead, it's an inner part. For our model, it rotates around the position of this small ball. So here, we first need to find this position. Let's isolate this part. We'll see that it's a sphere. In that case, we can create locators at these 2 points, then do a point constraint and find the middle position. Or we can also select this edge loop in the middle, convert it to a NURBS curve, find its center point, and then create a locator and snap it over. That's how we'll find its center position. Let's rename it. We'll call it wheel turning pivot. Then show all the models again. We know the only difference on the right side is the x-axis value. So let's change it to a negative value here. Then change the name. Now we have the locators for the rotation pivots on both the left and right sides. Next, we need to control the wheel steering. The wheel already has a controller here. And we know the controller is parent constraint to the model. So if I move the zero group, I can control the wheel's translation and rotation. But of course, we can't directly move the zero group, because the zero group is just for holding the offset values. And here we need another pivot point. So what do? We'll create a new group here, because we don't need a new controller. So we'll just create a group. We'll call this group wheel turning pivot. Then group it as well. And this group is a zero group. We're still using the zero group to hold its offset values. This way, we'll snap it to the left locator. If I control this newly created group, then I can control the wheel. So how do we control it? We'll put it under the back controller as its child. Then put the left front wheel's zero group under this group. Now look again. When I rotate this group, the wheel will rotate around it as the pivot. Let's do the same for the right side. This way, when we select these two groups, we can control the wheel steering. The idea used here is actually exactly the same as when we made different pivots to control the whole car. The only difference is that we didn't create a new controller, but used the group to replace it. Next, let's add a new attribute to the wheel controller itself. We'll call this attribute turning. What is it for? It's for connecting to this group. This way, when we modify this attribute, it will make the wheel rotate around the actual pivot point. Let's select the controller and then the group we just created. Open the connection editor. Add both sides in. Then take the attribute we just created and connect it to the group's rotate Y. This way, look, when we change this attribute, it rotates around this pivot point we set. It's the same operation for the right side. This way, when we change these two attribute values, the car steering has this effect. Next, we'll discover these parts are not rotating along with it. So we need to create two more trans groups to control them. This is the left one and the right one. Then find the group we just created. Apply a parent constraint to it. Maintain offset must be off. Next, let's also put these two trans groups under the top level trans group. They're at the same level as the wheels. Next, let's put the wheels group under it as its child. This doesn't really matter, it's up to you. I personally feel this hierarchy is a bit clearer, but we know its translation and rotation are controlled by parent constraints. So its hierarchy doesn't actually have any impact on the final result here. Next, let's parent the model. Because all the parts here, including this rod, are in the same group, so we have to select the corresponding models and parent them in. This is the left one. This is the right one. Now let's check again. When it rotates, we will see it has a steering effect centered on that small ball. But controlling the steering via the wheel controller is obviously very inconvenient. So how do we want to do it? We want an additional steering controller here at the front of the car. By rotating this controller, we can control the steering of both wheels together. It's a bit like the wiper setup. So let's do it. We're going to create a new controller here. Since it's a steering controller, I want it to have a more curved shape, different from the straight angular shapes. So although we're choosing CV curve, I'll change it to cubic. This way, the shape it draws can be smoother. Let's hide the model first. Switch to the front view. We'll draw a double arrow controller here. Let's draw it together. Because it's a cubic curve, if we want a sharp corner, we need to click 3 times in the same spot. See, that's how we get a sharp corner. If we only click twice, it will have this kind of rounded effect. And if we only click once, it will be even smoother. So we need to be careful here. It depends on the shape we want. I want an arrow here. So I'll hold X, snap to grid, click, then click the next point. Note we need to click 3 times here, and then click 3 times at the next point. That's the only way to get a sharp corner. Next, I don't want any more sharp corners. I want it to be a smooth shape. So I only click once at each position. And here I want a sharp corner again. So click 3 times. Then the same operation. This way you see I have some points in the middle. When I move these points, I get a smoother effect. Unlike those controllers from before, no matter which point I moved, it was always this straight angular effect. Let's switch back to perspective view and show the model again. This is our steering controller. Let's group it. The pivot for the steering controller, where should it be placed? It should be aligned with the 2 front wheels. So we'll put it between our 2 front wheels. We already have a controller in this position, so we'll just snap it to that controller. Then let's make some adjustments to its shape. Scale it up a bit. Adjust it to a shape that we're mostly happy with. Okay, I think that's about right. Now look, the pivot is still in that same position. By rotating this controller, we will control the wheel's steering. Don't forget to set a color for it. Since it's in the center, we'll set it to yellow again. Then we need to parent it under the corresponding controller. But we must be careful here. Because controlling steering controls the wheels themselves, it's actually not related to the suspension controller that we've been parenting to. Because that one controls the car body's behavior, and it has no connection to steering. So this controller we need to put it under the back controller as its child. Put it at the same level as all the wheels. Because only this way when we rotate, we can still use this controller to control the wheel steering. Now that we have the steering controller, let's take a look. Steering uses the y-axis. The other axes are not used. Remember to lock and hide the other attributes. Next, we'll use the y-axis rotation to control the wheel steering. This group is already connected to an attribute. So what do? We've already done a similar operation before. It's very simple. We'll create another group above it. We'll call this group Connect. Then we'll take this steering controller's rotate Y and connect it to these 2 groups. Let's select the controller. Go into the connection editor. And find those 2 connect groups we just created. And connect the y-axis rotation to the connect group's y-axis rotation. This way, you see, when I rotate, the car has this steering effect. And then we'll use the steering wheel to also control the steering effect. So how do we do that? It's actually the same. The steering wheel has an x-axis rotation, so we'll use the x-axis rotation to also connect to this steering group. We have two methods here. We can create another group above this one and connect its rotate y. Or we can use an add double linear node and add the steering wheel controller's rotate x and the steering controller's rotate y. Connect it to the connect group's rotate y. Let's just add them together. Use a slightly different method. Select the steering wheel controller itself, go into the node editor and add it. Then add those two connect groups and add the steering controller as well. Next, let's create an add double linear node. Call it turning angle. Here, let's connect the rotate y to input 1 and connect the steering wheel's rotate x to input 2. And then connect it back to the connect group's rotate y. This way, you see, when I rotate the controller, it still has this steering effect. And when I rotate the steering wheel, it also has the same steering effect. Now, when we rotate the steering controller, we want the steering wheel to have the same steering effect. So how do we do that? It's also very simple. We'll add another group above the steering wheel. Then connect the steering controller and the group we just created. Connect its rotate x. This way, look. When I rotate, the steering wheel will also turn along with it. If we want, we could also use the steering wheel to control the steering controller. Meaning, when the steering wheel rotates a certain angle, make the steering controller also turn a corresponding angle. That's the same as the setup we added to the steering wheel. We just add another group above this controller and connect them, but I personally think that's a bit too complicated. We won't add any more here. Let's go back to the node editor. Remember to clear these nodes from the node editor. Then close it. And with that, our simple steering setup is finished.